My name is Jeff Milisen, and I've been a volunteer at ODA for 4 years. I first heard about ODA when my wife actually started volunteering for them way back in the day. And she was helping out with these cleanups. And one of my real passions in life is actually cleaning up debris. That's a weird thing to say, but you don't get the same sense of self-satisfaction or of, I did a good thing today, as you do when you just go out and clean up trash that's just sitting on the reef killing animals, honestly. I worked for the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument when NOAA was going up and doing marine debris cleanups. I went out on 2 cruises with them, and during that time I developed a real passion for cleaning up marine debris. Those were mostly nets. Nowadays it's mostly tires, but it's the same level of good sleep that I get every night afterwards. I'm probably most impressed with Ocean Defenders Alliance and how they've been able to harness and leverage the local community here to help clean up the ocean. And the stuff that they bring back, I mean, we were just sitting on the dock yesterday after we had done a cleanup, and 2 or 3 people had stopped by, just obviously local folks that just didn't realize that how many different tires were underwater that we brought up, and they just paused for a minute to look at the tires, and they commented on, it's just awful how much trash we're putting down. And it's that kind of effect, and it's being able to showcase that, and is why they've been so successful in getting volunteers and putting together these cleanups. I volunteer with ODA because I'm a working diver, and I get a real sense of satisfaction every time I go out there and clean up large amounts of debris. I think you can see the biggest difference for what ODA does underwater if you visit some place that we've cleaned repeatedly, like Honoka'au Harbor. Because you go to Honoka'au Harbor the first time we went there, and you can see that we picked up just gobs and gobs of garbage, tires out the yin-yang. Every time we've been there since, we still manage to pick up trash, boat batteries, and things that people have thrown overboard, but it's a lot less. And you can really see that impact. So instead of cleaning up and trying to get the harbor to a state where it's relatively natural, we're now just picking up the stuff that has been thrown overboard in the last year. And that's a real good feeling. You know, I think the most interesting item that I removed, I've removed a lot of stuff. We found a sail that we're going back to pick up here in the next week or so up in Kauai. But I think the most memorable thing, honestly, was an unopened Steinlager beer that we found at the harbor. If you have ever been to Honoka'au Harbor and looked at the bottom, you probably don't want to drink a lot of things that come out of the sediment there. But this one was still sealed, and it still had carbonation, so I drank it that evening. I dive for a lot of purposes. I dive because I'm an underwater photographer. I dive for work. I work on fish farms. I dive recreationally. I was just diving this morning at the harbor. And yes, I dive as often as I can. I guide blackwater dives on Friday nights. My favorite places to dive, if you've ever been to the Galapagos, it's going to be on your list of favorite places to dive. And that's because if you dive somewhere like Wolf or like Darwin, it's just this parade of big animals that come through, and it really gives you this sense of exactly how much life there is in the ocean. We just recently went to Papua New Guinea, and if you've ever been to Papua New Guinea, if you've never been to Papua New Guinea, you'll be shocked at how little plastic there is there, and that's because it just hasn't physically made it to some of these more remote outposts. These remote places like Papua New Guinea are just stellar to find. I see garbage in the ocean just about every time. Every time you go underwater, you can see, and it's not just garbage, you can see impacts anytime you're around an island that's inhabited with people. There's no way that you're gonna get away from that. The only way that you're not gonna see garbage in the ocean is if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. If you go somewhere like the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, which are 5 days away from the nearest helicopter ride, they're just they're thousands of miles away from Honolulu. Never been inhabited by anybody ever, as far as we can tell. And yet, if you go down underwater on those, there are areas where you can swim 100 yards and come across 2 or 3 just giant nets that have just floated across the Pacific and tumbled over the outer areas of these atolls and just got tangled up in the reef and are just now smothering this otherwise pristine habitat. So do I see garbage when I dive? I mean, you see it everywhere. It's pretty pervasive. People should donate to ODA because it's probably the most direct impact that you're going to have on helping the ocean. The more funding that ODA can get in, the bigger their cleanups can be. The more gadgets, the more boats, the more effort they can put towards helping to remove a lot of this stuff from the ocean. It's really a very direct one-for-one spending of your dollars. For every dollar that you put into the ocean, 90-something cents of that, I think, goes to directly to helping clean up the ocean. That's an amazingly direct way to funnel your resources into doing something good.